Hello there, people of the internet, welcome back to my channel. So the first thing that I want to say is that I finally bought a microphone, and even though it was the cheapest decent one that they had, I'm sure the sound will be significantly better to my previous videos, so the intros and outros shouldn't now be so cringy anymore, even though my face is still in it, so I'm not sure. Second thing that I want to mention is the fact that I got quite lucky this week because one of my neighbors wanted to throw a bunch of fabrics and clothes away into the trash, but she gave it to me instead. And so now I have a huge pile of old bed sheets, window curtains, and old vintage clothes that I can use in my future projects and that I actually used for today's project. And so today I'm gonna show you how you can make this cute vintage looking, I guess, corset belt. So one of the things that I used for this project was this brown beige woven fabric skirt that she gave me that I really didn't have much of a use for, because at first I wanted to thrift flip it, but then I realized that even if I shortened it and make it fit me better, I still wouldn't want to wear it much, really, because it just wasn't my style. So instead I saved the button and the zipper from it for future projects, and I basically deconstructed the whole thing completely and just cut out the patterns that I needed out of it. Then for the lace border on top and the bottom of that corset belt, I used this old window curtain that she gave me also. And for the inside of the corset belt, so the lining of it, I used this old bed sheet because I thought that the colors were sort of similar as the shell fabric on it. Also, I want to say that I have a couple of books now, and I have been watching a couple of videos that I could find on YouTube on how to make the corsets the right way, so they are professionally made. And I decided to make this corset belt with this method because it wasn't really that much complicated, rather than it was really time consuming. The only thing that I didn't do professionally on this corset belt is the boning. Normally you should use the spiral steel boning, that's the best one you can use. And if you don't have that one, then the second best option would probably be some plastic one from sewing stores that you can get. But they are quite expensive here, and I didn't want to spend that money really, so instead I used zip ties because I already had them at home. And at first I thought that the zip ties won't be strong enough to actually make me feel like I have a real corset on me, but surprisingly, after I put the corset belt on, I felt quite cinched in and quite tightly, I would say. And the good thing that I noticed after I pulled it off was the fact that it didn't really warp the zip ties anyhow. And I think that's mostly because I was only making the belt, and my waist doesn't have that much of a curve there. The zip ties didn't really had to go around my boobs or anything like that. So it just stayed the way it was, if that makes any sense. So yeah, if you don't have the spiral steel boning at home or the plastic one, but you still want to make this corset belt, feel free to use the zip ties because I think they worked just fine for this belt. And yeah, if you need to, then don't be afraid to put two pieces of the zip tie into one channel. That will probably make it even more sturdier. But yeah, as always, if you like this video, guys, then don't forget to like this video at the end, comment down below, and subscribe to my channel because it will help me a lot. But yeah, let's get started. I got this pattern for free from another YouTuber called This Is Kachi, I think you pronounce it. And she has a bunch of cool videos on her channel, so don't forget to check more of them out. But yeah, I am going to link her video down below in the description box, so you can download the pattern directly from her site. And I used her pattern, but I used different method of putting the corset together than she did. That's why I cut out different number of pattern pieces for this project. She also had them named differently, but I thought it was a bit confusing, so I named mine going from letters A to F. So you have to cut the main front, or in my case pattern piece A, once from the shell fabric and twice from your lining fabric. And for the rest of the pieces, you want to cut 2 from the shell fabric and 4 pieces from the lining fabric. And don't forget to add your seam allowance before cutting them out. I also decided to round up the top of the front A pattern because I just didn't like that harsh edge there, but you can keep it as it is. Once you have all of your pattern pieces cut out, you're going to start to assemble them together backwards. So I started with the panel F. You're going to place the lining piece right side facing you. Then on top of it you will place the shell piece, also right side facing up. And then the lining piece again face down, so the wrong side is facing you. And you will sew the side like this. In my case, I sewed with 1 cm seam allowance. Then you are going to flip the both lining pieces to one side, and you are going to sew about 2 mm away from the seam. This way the lining will be easily folded down. I don't know where the footage disappeared, but once you fold the lining down, you're just gonna sew 3 lines like this. The first one going from the edge is for my zip tie. Then I sewed another line for where my eyelets will be, and then I sewed another one for another zip tie. Then I took 1 shell and 2 lining pieces of E panel, and I started again with lining piece facing up. Then I put the sewed panel F on top of it, facing up too. Then I put the shell facing right side down, and second lining piece I put facing down too, and I sewed it like that. This is what it looked like so far, and once you had that, you can iron it so it lays flat, and you can sew a line for another bone channel. It should look like this. I know it's a bit confusing, so I am going to show you one more time. You are going to place the lining piece facing the right side up. Then on top of it you will lay the already sewed parts, right side facing up too. And then on top of it you will place the shell, wrong side facing up. And then the lining again, wrong side facing up too. Again, once you have it, flip all of the pieces to one side and iron it to make it flat. And going from the edge, measure and mark the width of your zip tie or boning and sew a line there for a boning channel. And it should be this nice on the inside too. Well, maybe except for when my thread punches up anytime I backstitch, and this happens for some reason. Then you want to repeat this process with rest of the pieces except the panel A, and of course do the same for the other side, again starting with panel F all the way to the panel B. So you're going to take the last shell piece and 2 remaining lining pieces of the panel A. Then you're going to lay the lining right side facing up as with previous panels. Then take 1 wing, I guess, and lay it on top with the right side facing up too. Then put the shell down with the right side facing down. And lay down the lining again with the right side facing down, so the wrong side is facing up, and sew the edge. Then, as before, flip everything to one side and again iron and sew a line for the boning. Connecting it all together is a bit tricky, but I'll try to explain the best way I can. So you're going to flip everything to other side so that you end up with wing lining facing up and with 1 panel A lining facing the right side up too, like this. After that, you are going to take the other wing, you're going to lay it on top with right side facing up, and then you have to roll the both wings on themselves, I guess, so that you can take the shell and the remaining lining of the panel A and kind of wrap them around the wings so that you are closing them in. this is what it looked like when it was done, with the last boning channel sewed into. Then I created about 3 meters long spaghetti strap from the bedsheet to serve as a string to tie the corset with, and I also cut 3.5 centimeter wide rectangle that was long enough to wrap around the top and the bottom of the corset like a bias tape. Then I applied the bias tape on the top of the corset first. And then off the camera I cut the zip ties to fit the channels, and then I shortened them a bit so that I could easily apply the bias tape at the bottom of the corset too. I added 4 eyelets, probably because I rounded up that front panel at the beginning. It ended up a little bit weird looking, so that's why I decided to add something around the edges of the corset so that these couple of errors wouldn't be so very much obvious. So I cut 2 very long, about 4 centimeter wide rectangles, and I folded them in half lengthwise and sewed a basin stitch there. Then I guttered the stripe. And sewed it along the both edges of the corset like this, and it was done. Okay, so that's all I had for you today, and I hope you guys liked how the corset belt turned out. There were a couple things that I wasn't quite happy and satisfied about, but I still think that it turned out quite nice, and I'm definitely gonna be wearing it. And yeah, I'll be probably making more of them now. So yeah, that's all for today, and I'll see you in my next week's video. But yeah, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next week. Bye!